945 News Talk 97.3 KIRO FM. Signed, sealed, and delivered. The theme we heard at so many Barack Obama events going back to that day in Iowa when he won the Iowa caucuses, and suddenly they were off and running. Totally out of the blue, and now he is the President of the United States of America. This is Dave Ross coming to you live from the Palace Ballroom here at 5th and Lenora in downtown Seattle, where a happy and well-fed crowd is now slowly leaving, wearing their inaugural hats with the stars and stripes, getting their picture taken next to the cardboard cutout of Barack Obama. And joining us now from Seattle Central Community College is Reverend Carl Livingston, Professor of Political Science at SCCC. Reverend Livingston, thanks for coming on today. Let me get your overall impression of the President's speech this morning.
I thought the speech was good. I didn't think it was excellent, but I was very moved by the whole ambiance, the whole event.
He didn't seem to be going for any signature phrases or catchphrases. There was almost a determined tone to it, an acknowledgement of some of the challenges facing the nation. Certainly, when he started talking about terrorism, he pulled no punches. We will not apologize for our way of life. You cannot outlast us, and we will defeat you. Was he being more militaristic there than you expected?
No, he was not. He's a third-way president. That is to say, he is in the order of Bill Clinton, and in terms of security, defense, he wants to be strong. And so I can see him trying to really even do more. He sounded a little bit like Bush in that regard. And given the situation in the world, perhaps that's important so that people wouldn't mistake his youth as it appears they may have done with JFK back in the early 60s.
Don't assume that because he was an opponent of the war in Iraq, in other words, that he's just going to allow terrorism to run roughshod over America.
That is right.
Yeah. In terms of the attempt to create unity, I can remember with the Bush inauguration 4 years ago, the country was divided, certainly politically divided, and it was a day of celebration for Republicans, a somber day for Democrats, and actually 2001 was like that too because of the way the election finally ended up in the Supreme Court. President-elect Obama has tried to do something completely different by including Republicans in the cabinet, by reaching out to Republicans during this whole transition process, by inviting Rick Warren to deliver the invocation. He's tried to make it a truly universal celebration. Do you think he's succeeded in doing that?
I really think he has. It's going to be a strength. He's got his staunch detractors really on the run, and he has won over the people that would have otherwise been against him but have an open mind. And those things will help him. I mean, it's going to extend his honeymoon, but the challenge will be that he's got great problems on the table that he has to face now.
In terms of America's racial unity, what do you think this accomplished? What does this achieve?
Well, I think that it is one of those critical points in the country that marks tremendous progress. While we still have so much to do, this is a time for the country to stop really and to celebrate itself. And I mean the country even beyond African Americans. I mean, this really said something about non-African Americans who supported Barack Obama because they felt like he was the best candidate for the job. And to extend beyond race, to look at the content of his character/ability, that said something very powerful about this country. And I think that this could not have happened even 10 years ago, certainly 20 or 30 years ago. It happened today because this country has moved beyond a certain critical mark that we should just stop at and say, hey, country, way to go.
We'll be right back with Reverend Carl Livingston. This is the Dave Ross Show.
Today, I say to you that the challenges we face are real. They are serious and they are many. They will not be met easily or in a short span of time. But know this, America, they will be met.
Barack Obama, 44th President of the United States of America, sworn in today on the steps of the Capitol, now posing for pictures with George and Laura Bush. Barack and Michelle Obama preparing to go into the limousine. He will then head up Pennsylvania Avenue in the procession. He will move to the reviewing stand, and then the inauguration parade will begin. Reverend Carl Livingston of Seattle Central Community College is on the line with me. We're just talking about the symbolism of this, the racial symbolism of this, and your feeling that this is not just a day for African Americans, but of course for all Americans. And speaking as a white American myself, I heartily agree with that. As somebody who came of age during the 60s and watched the civil rights movement and felt my share of white guilt, I too find this quite a gratifying day. Of course, one of the things that always happens in an administration, well, not always, but it seems lately in most administrations, is that it all begins wonderfully on Inauguration Day, and of course there's that honeymoon, and then you got to get down to governing, and you face some practical problems which people of goodwill disagree on. And that's going to be, of course, his big test. And the hallmark of his campaign was disagree without being disagreeable, make decisions that are not based simply on an ideology, but based on what works. And yet, he does have people who supported him based on an ideology. Certainly on the left, they've already become disenchanted with his hesitation to pull the troops summarily out of Iraq. What do you predict will be his first real test, Reverend Livingston?
I think that he's going to push through this stimulus package. And I think that Boehner and the other Republicans have already come out and began to frame the opposition. And so as he pushes that through somewhere around $800 billion, approaching $1 trillion or so, Boehner and the other Republicans are going to come in at probably half that, 2/3 of that, and then call him the big spender and say this is too expensive for the country. And it's going to be a test. It will probably pass, and but it will also probably begin to build his opposition. And so we'll see what happens as he navigates that.
The president, former President Bush and Mrs. Bush have just boarded the helicopter to leave, and that brought a little cheer from the remaining crowd here at the Palace Ballroom. Happy to see President Bush leave. Talking about the former president, is he to blame for the divided nature of the country that Barack Obama has inherited?
Well, he has to take at least some of the blame, and it has a lot to do with the size of the office, as you know so well, because I've heard you speak very astutely on politics. It's our presidency. Our president wears many, many hats. Our presidency is huge, and we blame the president really for whatever happens to the country, whatever major thing happens to the country on the president's watch. And so the president is going to be blamed, whether President Bush is going to be blamed whether he likes it or not. And he actually added to it. I think that he felt that he could solve the tough tenor, the divided tone in Washington by being a nice person. And there's no doubt that he's a nice person, that he tried to extend his hand. But his problem is that his policy positions were, they were neocon Republican. And that forced the Democrats to really be oppositional.
He is personally a nice person. I interviewed him once a long time ago, and he was perfectly affable on the phone, at least. Where I thought it went too far, though, was during the 2004 campaign, when he basically accused half the country of being cowards, of being surrender monkeys, became the phrase on the right, of not caring enough about America to protect it against terrorism, that you couldn't trust Democrats, you couldn't trust an entire American political party to keep the country secure. And I think that certainly turned me off. I know that. And I think it turned a lot of people off to think that that you were somehow soft on people who would run a plane into a building.
Right. And so you're making a very, very good point there. I think some people, though, other scholars and other people that watch politics closely would go right on back to 2001 and say from that first budget that he sent up through how he handled working with the Democrats. They felt like they were forced in a polarized position. Now, they wanted to be polarized because many of them felt that he had, quote unquote, stolen the election, or that he was appointed and or selected and not elected. But I'm just saying that it's because of his politics and the people that he had around him too, who were very, very, very strong, very, very capable, but far right, or at least right wing. Rumsfeld, at that time, Pearl was in the office, Richard Pearl, and in his administration, and Wolfowitz, Cheney. These were excellent, excellent speakers from the right who were really good at framing those on the left as either unwise or basically unpatriotic.
So do you think he will be able to control the members of his own party who still want to play that partisan game?
Are you talking about now Barack Obama?
Yeah, right. Will Barack Obama, because he's already run into a little contretemps with Nancy Pelosi over whether to roll back the Bush tax cuts. There are certainly those on the left who feel that they have certain expectations of him, of a complete sea change in terms of tax policy, budget policy, and yet he seems inclined, as he said, to take any idea that works, whether it comes from the right or from the left. Do you think he can successfully pull that off and control the members of his party who still want to score points?
I think that he's going to be able to deal with Congress. I think that his great challenge is going to be within his administration. And the reason why I believe that he is going to be able to control Congress is not because of his executive experience. He doesn't have a lot of executive experience. I sense that he's got the skills, but what gives me confidence that he's going to be able to deal with Congress is his administration. He's picked some very strong people around him in his administration. It's as if he really listened to people like Doris Kearns Goodwin, I think is her name, and others who explained having a cabinet really of people with opposing ideas. Well, he's got some strong people in there.
He certainly does. I want to thank you, Reverend Livingston, for joining us today. Reverend Carl Livingston, professor of political science, pastor at Kingdom Christian Center, the author of Shoestrings and Bootstraps. This is the Dave Ross Show, coming to you live on News Talk 97.3, KIRO FM, Tacoma, Seattle, and KIRO Seattle.